Welcome back to AM News. Now, ANC presidential hopeful Mathews Phosa says there's no unity in the ANC-led government. Phosa accuses the ANC of splitting on the constitution by continuing to allow President Zuma to remain in office despite the Nkandla Constitutional Court ruling. And Phosa says he should be elected as president in December. One of his tasks would be to rally the NEC to recall President Jacob Zuma from the highest office of the land. Our reporter Aldrin Sampier sat down with Mr. Phosa for an exclusive interview.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's always great chatting to you, and it's always great chatting to someone who's willing to speak their mind. And that's the reason why you have so many media houses coming to you and asking you some of the more difficult questions as well. And one of those difficult questions I want to ask yourself at the moment is, let's first start with the ANC. How did you get to this point? How did the ANC arrive at the point where things have seemed to hit rock bottom, a crisis that some say that they've never seen before, that the ANC has faced?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me a platform to talk to you and the South Africans. There is no difficult questions. There are only difficult answers. So you're at liberty to ask me anything you want to ask me, as long as it's not personal.
So the ANC, how did the ANC get to this point? How did the ANC hit rock bottom?
It's not yet there, it's getting there, worryingly very fast. But we have challenges, we have difficulties. And there are subjective and objective factors. Subjective factors, some people call them own goals. To allow a decay in our branches, which is characterized by the members of branches no longer being volunteers. People who buy members to become members, and therefore owning those members and telling them to turn left or to turn right or to jump. Now that's wrong. That's the rot that started. No more political education in the branches, but only discussions about tenders. Tenders were not there when we struggled. There's a song that says, "I'm a tender bangeko." And that's correct statement. We talk about how do we build a cadre of the movement of a special type, who will respect the masses, respects the oath of the ANC. That is even before we went into government. That character of the ANC is no more there in the branches. And we must take responsibility. We've dropped the ball on focusing on building the political consciousness of our members. That's what went wrong. But then it escalates to provincial levels, and it escalates to the NEC levels. And then, of course, what happens in the NEC ripples into what happens in the government.
True.
Very fast, actually. Because there's been a development which I call a conflation of the exercise of power, where what happens in the NEC is like flew into the government. What is our relationship with our constitution, which is the framework of our existence, our ultimate guideline to the future, which every South African supports, which was agreed after long discussions as a social contract of our people. We are spitting into the constitution, or spitting at it. The judgment by the Constitutional Court saying the president did not respect his oath of office, nor the constitution, was the first negative judgment to be made to a sitting president, to an ANC president. And the ANC had a moment of glory to rise to when that judgment was made. Not to take collective responsibility for a wrong. I mean, it was a wrong. People are paying back the money, including the president, because a wrong has been committed. Why do you take collective responsibility for such a thing? The censor in the party should have to ask him to step down and not to wait for more divisions to occur in society and in the party around that issue.
So do you think that that was the first missed opportunity for the ANC to what they call self-correct?
100%. And history will punish us for that. And the masses are going to punish us for that in the next elections. But not only that, since August last year, we lost 2 centers of power, Tshwane, Johannesburg, and Mandela, gone. Huge tech space, we have lost that. But we lost also other small towns where we've been put on the retreat. Now that was a voice of our people against us. A movement built over 106 years. The people have lost trust in us because we have lost moral authority. Now we need to go not into denial, but into looking into ourselves in the mirror and say in the morning, do we still look like we looked in 1955 or 1912? Do we still look like we looked in 1994 when Nelson Mandela took over? What has happened to the agenda of Nelson Mandela? Which some people today, I don't want to use rude word, out of ignorance, try to ridicule. When a man in a difficult transitional phase delicately managed that transition for the benefit of all South Africans, black and white. We should celebrate that. We should pick up Mandela's baton and run with it, rather than throw it away. And every time there's an argument about really side issues, we focus on them. How many times do we easily get divided on racial issues in South Africa? We cannot deny racism, but racism is both black and white.
What's the duty then of an ordinary ANC member? You speak about the branches and how their power has been eroded. What's the duty of an ordinary ANC member? And I'm asking you specifically this. And you were the Treasurer General of the ANC when when then Deputy President became the President. This is now Jacob Zuma. You were part of that team that's trying to steer the ANC in what you called in a previous interview that you had with my colleague, that you're trying to steer the ANC in the right direction. Do you think that you had lost sight of that, considering that you had some huge scandal like Nkandla, which took place during a tenure while you were still Treasurer General of the ANC? The assessment of Nkandla was during your time as well. Although it's a government issue, however, though it speaks to the ANC itself and its members.
Let me help you. Nkandla came after I was no longer Treasurer of the ANC. Nkandla came later. When we went to Polokwane, there was no Nkandla. President Zuma only had a rape case for which he was acquitted. And it created its own tension, but he was acquitted. But Nkandla came later, you understand? And it hits us as an organization in our faces. The role of our leadership is to acknowledge that there was a mistake that was committed, and to respect the voice of the Constitutional Court, and to give it status by complying with that decision.
The Nkandla court case, of course, happened after.
Yes.
But Nkandla itself, the security upgrades at the President's house, the assessment started around about 2009, 2010 as well.
Let me tell you, we in the ANC, as leadership, were not aware of Nkandla. It was not, in any case, Nkandla is not an ANC issue. It's a President Zuma issue. You understand?
It has affected the party.
Yeah, that we want. That listen, this guys is going to affect the party. That's why I'm saying what happens in ANC quickly ripples into the government and vice versa. That's where we are. And I think that there was a blind side. The issue of Nkandla could be handled with more maturity. To understand, it's not an ANC issue. It's an issue of the president in government with the officials who committed this thing, and action had to be taken. But the ANC had the responsibility to guide.
With the Nkandla issue is that you have this molecule right now. You have a molecule where you say that pre the Nkandla debate or the Nkandla debacle, the ANC could have been more wise how to deal with the issue. But anyway, then it happened. Then there was a constitutional court case. Post the constitutional court case, what has the ANC done?
The ANC has disgraced itself by taking collective responsibility. It's like sliding down. You understand what I'm saying? Away from Nkandla, there were many on goals. Dismiss Nene for reasons which were not very clear. And then appoint Van Rooyen for a weekend, weekend special minister. And then remove him, put Pravin. A year later, try and charge Pravin. There's war at the executive level. There's war with the law enforcement institutions, the Hawks, IPID, and then to top it up, Balula and Tlemeza. There's war. There's no cohesion in government at the moment. We need to quieten the noise and kill the noise and have stability and move on. In Parliament, Parliament has been reduced to a talk shop a brawl, and it has been humiliated in the eyes of our people. Our people want dignity and respect in that parliament. It is the responsibility of all the parties then, in terms of that. But when the report of Nkandla went to parliament, what happened? We as ANC did not give proper leadership. And the court pronounced on that. In the subcommittee report, we endorsed it, we bulldozed it against opposition parties, saying, please, can't endorse this thing. Now, National Assembly had dropped the ball, but now it was a wake-up call for them. They've learned a lesson. You can see now the committees are beginning to be more activist, and we should encourage that.
If you have this situation right now where some would argue that the ANC failed to act against the president on the Nkandla issue, considering the findings of not only the public protector but now also the constitutional court case. Now you have this situation in parliament. There was a motion pushed even back then after the court ruling last year by the opposition. This was the DA, calling on a vote of no confidence against the president. That vote went ahead, and the opposition party failed. There was a second one, if I'm not mistaken, last year as well. That one failed as well.
You are right.
And there is now this one that we are currently facing. And then some wonder, why is the argument now different? Why is the expectations from ANC members different now, that now they should be voting with the opposition party to remove President Jacob Zuma? I just want your thoughts on that.
Let me tell you, I'm not in parliament to be able to do the numbers. It's up to the comrades. And I think Comrade Thabo, former president, has dealt with this matter, the responsibilities of members of parliament. I don't want to go there. He's right. But let me tell you, as an ANC member, I feel that the ANC has got a responsibility to drive a motion in the NEC asking President Zuma to step down.
The one last year failed.
No, but it doesn't matter. This thing has been escalating. You can see the divisions. Look at the officials. Even on an issue right now about whether or not there was a spy report. I mean, they pronounce themselves on Monday in a particular way, and on Wednesday they pronounce themselves differently, which impact on credibility not only of them, but also of the party itself. What is it? Is there a spy document or not? Mahlobo says he has never seen it. The president says in the court papers, he doesn't know about it, they must produce it. Chaos. We need...
How did you arrive at this point? How did you arrive at the point where you have the Secretary General of the party, the Deputy President of the party, the second in charge after the President, saying publicly that there is this intelligence report that the President wants to use, and even you had Gwede Mantashe during the press briefing after the extended NEC meeting saying that the reason why we opposed the reshuffle was because of this intelligence report. And the President saying that, you know what, the DA must produce this intelligence report.
But I'm saying,
how have decisions, such huge decisions, caused so much divisions within the ANC, even at the highest level of the party?
But I'm raising the issue with you. I'm saying it's a demonstration of lack of coherent leadership. But if you go back to the nitty-gritty of it, the President did not consult them on the reshuffle according to what they say. If they're telling the truth, then the President consulted himself, which is a step towards a dictatorship. I mean, in reality...
But even if the President could have consulted himself, how did they know about this so-called intelligence?
No, I don't know about it. I'm watching the movie as it moves around. I think they should have sat down with him before they made pronouncements and show respect and say, Mr. President, this has happened now. Indoors, what really happened? Is there a spy report or not? I think they will have arrived at different conclusions. In a way, I just think they spoke too early.
You think that was a wrong foot for them to go publicly and
and
speak against or mention, for instance, the intelligence report?
No, I don't mind.
I guess now I'm asking you as an attorney.
No, I don't mind them saying anything about anyone, but I think they should have consulted themselves internally and found a common response to the so-called spy report. And maybe the president would have told them there is no such a report. And in all fairness to the president, I mean, they should have talked to him. But I don't know if they talked. But if they talked to him, you'd have talked to them like he's talking on court papers. Show me the report. So I think give him credit for that.
And just speaking about this court case itself, the essence of the court case, the DA's application, is to find out whether the President was rational in his cabinet, in his decision to reshuffle cabinet, but quite particularly to remove the finance minister as well as the deputy finance minister. What's your take on this?
My first take is that it is the president's prerogative to say who must be in cabinet, who must not be in cabinet. And he doesn't even have to consult anybody. That's the constitution. It doesn't say you appoint after consultation, which is got a legal meaning. It's just got the right to appoint. But if there's a court case which is me and you must respect is sub judice, I'm not going to pass judgment on the process of court. I'm a lawyer. Let it take its course.
But there must be a test of rationality, I reckon.
I have no problem with that. It's all in the constitution. So let the court engage the matter. Let it be argued. Let's all be bound by the results. It's sub judice, and we must teach the public when the matter is sub judice, you say little.
Earlier on, you spoke about how the ANC is spitting on the Constitution, how, quote unquote, you say we are spitting on the Constitution. What has led to this situation? And it takes me back to an interview that I had with Thabo Mbeki as well last week, where he said that for as long as there's no respect for the rule of law, these court cases against government will continue.
President Mbeki is absolutely correct. I agree with him. Because the principles of that constitution are well known to all of us. We drafted it. We should be the first one to interpret it correctly and not be reminded by the DA what the constitution says, or even by the court. We must be disciplined. And people in ANC talk about being disciplined. Here we are not disciplined in terms of the constitution. We do wrong things which violate the constitution. So Thabo Mbeki is correct. We must abide by the rule of law, and which is embedded in the constitution.
What causes that? Or what causes a point where you have a court ruling, like let's bring in the case against the former Hawks boss, Bernie Nkandla, for instance, where a court has said that this person is untrustworthy, yet you had the minister at the time who still appointed him and made him a permanent head of the Hawks. What causes that mindset that even though a court has made a decision or has made a ruling and has mentioned or has made some findings against somebody, you then bring that down to it being simply an opinion?
It's not an opinion. It doesn't clear. You are wrong. That's what I'm talking about. We spit at the constitution. We spit at the courts. We even spit at the judges. We should not do those things. We should respect our institutions. Yes, there's separation of power, and the other arms of government, being the executive and the legislature, must respect the rules of the court. The Constitution says the Constitutional Court is ultimate arbiter. Finish and clear is the ultimate arbiter. You don't go around it to find loopholes. Look at what the Minister of Social Services did. The Constitutional Court makes a ruling, and she finds all sorts of reasons to violate that ruling. And you saw for the first time Chief Justice Mkhweng, when the proceedings were going on, he was furious. Why do you put our judges in such difficulties? By not observing the judgment of the court. It's wrong. Even disrespecting the other institution like public protector, and then the predominantly public protector has been under attack. Why? Because people hold different views. You don't have to abuse one of those institutions, whether it's Human Rights Commission or Auditor General. You've got to listen to them carefully. They are checks and balances on the democratic system.
What are the dangers when that continues happening, when continuously court rulings are being ignored, when continuously the interpretation, as they would say, that they've tried to interpret the law is misinterpreted?
It's not misinterpreted. It's delinquent behavior by politicians. The price we pay is loss of trust in the ANC and loss of power by the ANC in the very near future. Once you lose, people lose trust in you, and I'm going back to your first question, we will sink to the rock bottom, and it's going to be a struggle to lift us up. You see, it took 106 years to build this party. It will take a year only to destroy it, and it's being destroyed at the moment by many own goals. And we need to stop that. And one of the ways of stopping it, you're almost tempted to say, if the NEC is not prepared to lead, they should be honorable enough to say, let's go Zuma. They must be prepared to lead. We can't be asked to unite around corruption. I think it's a tough call on us as members of the ANC. We can't be asked to accompany the ANC to its funeral. We must resist that and want to rescue the ANC and unite it. But Not on the basis of corruption, not on the basis of protecting one another. No, on the basis of the values of the ANC as we know them in the Freedom Charter, partly enshrined in our own constitution. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've got precedents of good presidents in this country, and good leadership. But the leadership must do a soul searching. I'm repeating, look ourselves in the mirror and find out whether our faces still look like in 1994. I think we'd likely to find they don't look the same.
There is the pronouncement that there's support for you to become the president of the ANC. When you eventually decide to accept in June after the formal nominations, what will be your first task? Should you be elected in December as leader of the ANC?
First of all, I must wait for the June opening of nominations. And if I'm nominated, of course I will accept. At the moment, the intention to nominate me, I have accepted from a ward in Langa. And I think there will be many. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The first task is to address the problems in the branches of the ANC and build a very clean movement, a principled movement, and to restore the values of the ANC, which we don't have to reinvent, we know them. And insist on every member of the ANC to take an oath again, as we did in exile, and not to have this, everyone, I'm ANC because I'm wearing a t-shirt which is black, green, and gold, I'm wearing a cap. That doesn't make you a good ANC member. We must believe in the principles of the ANC.
I put it to you, Mr. Phosa, that the most difficult task that you will face, should you be elected as ANC president, would be whether you call on the NEC at the time that has been elected in Gauteng at the 54th conference, that President Jacob Zuma should go as president of the country. That will be your most difficult task. Are you up for that task?
Easiest task for me. It will be the easiest task for me. That's not a difficult one. So you're not putting to me difficult questions. I told you at the beginning, they are not difficult questions. They are only difficult answers. That's the simplest of them all. Because I've said, after the Constitutional Court pronounced on him, he must go. I was the first one to say it. And they said, he's mad, they'll kill him. I said, but you won't kill the idea, I said.
So even in your presidency as ANC president, that's the theme that you will be pushing? That Jacob Zuma should go as president of the country?
It's many of the things that need to be arrested in this process. But Jacob Zuma is not the leader of the ANC. He's the president. So we need to agree as a new NEC what we do about that. If we are serious about arresting the moral collapse of the ANC in government, why must he be there? Why must he be there?
And what would your message be to ANC members who might feel that Mathews Phosa is on an agenda and he might be reeling from what happened in Mangaung?
He's sick. He's sick. It's poverty of ideas. Some people say, when I was laughing, someone said when they saw the foundations having an assessment of the situation, it's another Zuma hate front. So they're also reeling from something? Seriously? I mean, let's grow up. You can't say when I say you stole money, you say I'm angry from Mangaung. It doesn't make sense. Let's look for coherent argument which makes sense and not emotional slogans of slow or low thinkers for shortcut in thinking. The fact is, money is being stolen under our watch, and we must stop that. We must serve our people. We must fight corruption. We must fight to increase the economic cake in this country and create jobs. We must look at the social conditions of our people at the grassroots level. We must restore the faith of our people in government. Forget about the ANC, in government. They must trust government. Now they don't. It's not about some conference of the ANC in Polokwane, Mangaung, or in Johannesburg. It's about us arresting the death of the ANC and improving government institutions.
Just finally, in hindsight, was it the wrong decision for yourself personally as Mathews Phosa to support Jacob Zuma at the time, back in 2007 in Polokwane, to become president of the country, even though he was facing these corruption charges at the time? And now, this moment, he ends his presidency, those charges are still hovering above his head. He still hasn't had his day in court. Should he have his day in court?
I want to tell you, it would have been unfair to find Zuma guilty on allegations. We cannot support that. So So we genuinely believe that he was innocent until he was found guilty. And therefore we elected him. And then even now he has not been found guilty of those charges. Give him credit. Be fair in your presentations. And don't be judgmental based on rumor or allegations. Give the man a chance. He's got also rights under the rule of law.
Should he face those charges? Should he have his day in court?
I think if he's charged, he must go to court like Mandela went on the Lulate case and face the charges. None of us is above the law. Because the day any one of us is above the law, we are finished.